Good morning, my fellow Michiganders. Good morning, my fellow Americans. Welcome to the Grassroots Army podcast. Of course, I am your host, Garrett Soldano, and I have a great video of a clip of the last Republican debate. And it's not a coincidence that we don't see this played a lot. It's not getting a lot of airtime. And I think it's a very important question. And I understand why the Dems wanted to ask and kind of put the Republican candidates on the spot with Operation Warp Speed, because they're trying to make President Trump look bad and say, well, President Trump did Operation Warp Speed and he rushed it and everything else. And they're trying to basically, put chinks of the armor of President Trump right now, because he is obviously gaining much momentum on both sides. And he's starting to really pull away in all of the polls, especially in the battleground states. And so I wanted to revisit this little clip and really start getting it some awareness so you all can start to think. It goes right on with what I'm trying to do with the Grassroots Army, is to empower you with education, information, to take back your health, and really develop what I feel is the four pillars of living a very what I like to start saying, a grassroots army strong lifestyle. And that's a life where you're dominating physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially. So we're going to get to those legs later, but this goes right along with knowing that getting the information and understanding what's truly going on so you can make empowered, educated decisions moving forward and stand up when you need to. But Vivek Ramaswamy, now, is he going to win the nomination? Probably not, unless something happens to President Trump. He is not going to win. However, I really feel this guy has a future in the party, and what he says. He is saying a lot of the right things. A couple of things that he was saying, I'm going to get to right here, right now, on what he was talking about, not allowing you to sit on a board after you pass laws or worked with businesses in politics. And that's what I was trying to do in the state of Michigan, that you weren't allowed to get on any of these boards after you were lobbied by them. And he kind of threw Nikki Haley underneath the bus with dealing with Boeing, and she ended up sitting on the board. So that's kind of like the backdoor politics that I think we're all kind of done with, in the crooked politicians that continue to get lobbied and make decisions that aren't good for America. Okay. And so he really throws her underneath the bus and other politicians, but also how he handled this question. All right. They tried to put a chink in President Trump's armor. Vivek went another route, which I agree with everything Vivek Ramaswamy had to say with this. So let's get right to it.
Okay. Through Operation Warp Speed, the Trump administration and private industry developed a COVID vaccine in record time. The program protected the drug companies from virtually all lawsuits over vaccine injuries. The government has a program to compensate for such harm, but critics say it is a black hole of bureaucracy. 12,000 claims filed, 10% decided, only 8 payouts so far, in a forum with no right to counsel, no hearings, no appeals. Mr. Trump says he's very proud of Warp Speed. Should he be?
Well, this question specifically on liability goes back to actually Reagan. And Reagan is a president who I admire. Many of us do. I think that reviving that spirit is in many ways going to be good for this country in so many ways. But one of the areas where he erred was this special form of lobbying to say that one kind of manufacturer, a vaccine manufacturer, cannot be sued for their product liability. So I have pledged, it is part of my legislative agenda, we will repeal that, just like we will repeal every other.
And what he just referred to is a National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act that Reagan signed back in 1986 that basically gives Big Pharma a get-out-of-jail-free card. There's no liability in any of the damage or side effects that their vaccines cause, which I am all for what Vivek just said. He is going to get rid of that and allow the pharmaceutical companies to be liable. So that is huge. Now, it's enormous, because if you look at the CDC guidelines, if you look before that act was signed and after it was signed, you're going to see a dramatic difference in the CDC's recommendations with the vaccines. That's just truth. So let's continue to listen.
Other form of crony capitalism. People who have been harmed by those vaccines deserve accountability. They cannot be forgotten Americans. And I think one of the top lessons we learned from that COVID pandemic is that free speech in this country is most important in those alleged times of emergency. If we had been allowed to openly debate the merits of those vaccines, they would have been never mandated in the way that they were. And in general, I don't think that we should want capitalism and democracy to share the same bed anymore. It's time for a clean divorce. Let companies be companies, but I don't like the crony capitalism. This dates back a long time in both parties. And I think that we need to end the lobbying. And I personally believe that if you have been working in the government, you should not lobby that government for 10 years. If you have been a government elected official doing deals with companies, be they Boeing or be they pharmaceutical companies, you should not join the board of that company for 10 years after. The former chairman of the FDA, the leader commissioner of the FDA, ended up on the board of Pfizer. Nikki Haley did deals with Boeing, ends up on the board of Boeing. I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat. We need some basic principles that end the corruption in government. That's how we got the health insurance exemptions. That's how we got the pharmaceutical product liability exemptions.
Thank you.
We end the corruption.
He's spot on. He's spot on with everything that guy just said. Everything. And that's why I'm a fan of Vivek. I like Vivek. I know there's a bunch of garbage spread about him and all this stuff, and there's misinformation. And he has tackled all of those issues. Well, most of them that I've seen. Now, look, folks, I ran for governor, and there was all kinds of misinformation that was thrown out about me, about other, supporters supporting other candidates, and they were all lies. And unfortunately, when we're eating ourselves alive, because you never see the Democrats do this, you're constantly putting out fires of misinformation from our own party, from our own people, because people are so passionate about their candidates and they just start throwing, crap against the wall, hoping it sticks. And you're spending most of your time, trying to defend yourself. And that's what Vivek has done. I like Vivek. I like all the things that he's been saying. Is he perfect? No. However, he is spot on a lot of these issues. He truly is. And he handled that question beautifully. Now, if you go back to the pandemic, you weren't going to win either way, because if Trump didn't support Operation Warp Speed, then the Dems would have been screaming from the rooftops saying that he had an opportunity to get a procedure in and he didn't take it and people died. I mean, he was in literally a no-win situation. The pandemic worked perfectly to take down our economy, put him in a corner, and allowed them to do the shenanigans that they did. But I tell you what, more and more people in the middle are waking up. And that's what the polling is saying. Now, we're a long way from the election. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of things that are going to happen over the next 10 months. However, you can't deny what the radical extreme left and what they stand for is doing to our country. The invasion of the South. You have the economy, inflation, the overspending, supporting all these wars, all of your tax dollars going over across seas and not focusing on the United States. Crime is out of control. All these illegals are now getting in the gangs and burglarizing everything. I mean, it's getting bad. It truly is. And unfortunately, it's going to get really bad throughout this next year until we get the right leadership in place. And the biggest thing that's going on right now that I just posted, I think I posted like 59% of Republicans won the school board in Pennsylvania. That lets you know something, that the people in the middle, suburban moms and suburban dads, are sick and tired. 59%. I just read it. 59%. They're getting sick and tired of their parental rights being infringed upon. So bottom line, it's common sense. If you want parental rights, you support parental rights. If you think you should have what goes on with your kids and have control of that and not the government take over what happens to your kids, then vote Republican. Because the Dems, Gavin Newsom's doing it in California. That's why he's burned California to the ground on one of the issues. But bottom line, the people in the middle are starting to wake up, and the radical left, extreme left, can't run away with what they have done and what they've been fighting for and standing for the past several years. And America doesn't want anything to do with it. There's always going to be that 35, 37% that will go down with the sinking ship of the radical extreme left. However, the people in the middle are going, you know what? Orange man bad isn't too bad anymore. And I would take a mean tweet any day of the week over my parental rights being infringed upon or taken away from me, or allowing pornographic material in these public schools and everything else. And then the indoctrination and everything else is going on. People in the middle are fed up. And you can see it with all these woke companies and the billions and billions of dollars that they're losing. Disney, Bud Light, to name a few, right? So the tide is turning. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I firmly believe Biden's not running. I still think it's going to be Whitmer. If you follow her on Twitter, she continues to try to paint. She obviously hired some firm for her image with all the content she's putting out to put her into this kind of nanny governor kind of little corner. But I will not stop allowing you folks to never forget and educate in the middle of what she's done and what she's continued to do. So let's continue to see what Governor DeSantis said, which I agree with everything Governor DeSantis said about this with the mandates, because he's right.
We need a reckoning for what this government did during COVID-19. That includes the mRNA shots. They put it out. It was experimental. People wanted it. Then the government started trying to mandate it, to say you don't have a right to put food on your table if you don't take an mRNA shot that was under emergency use. They tried to take nurses away. Now, in Florida, we blocked that. We provided protections for everybody so that they wouldn't lose their job. You also have the FDA approving an mRNA shot for 6-month-old babies. There was no data to support that. They're doing it because big pharma will make money. So I'm going to go in there, CDC, NIH, FDA. We're going to clean house. There's going to be a reckoning, because right now nobody's been held accountable for any of the damage. And they're going to try to do it again. When I'm president, this will never happen to our country ever again.
I mean, that was fantastic with Governor DeSantis. It was. So again, like, great answers to that question. They're standing. Those are the things that I like to hear. Are they going to win? No. President Trump is going to win the nomination unless something happens. But we'll see how this year kind of evolves. I also want to point out, I'm going to try to bring up the new YouTube channel here and share my screen with all of you. Miguel, the new prime minister or president, whatever they call it over there, just did some great things with Javier Milei, and he just slashed department. So one second. I want to show you guys all this. I'm going to have to share my screen here. So bear with me, because this guy, I love him. If you haven't watched that interview with Tucker Carlson with this young man, Javier, it's over 500 million views on Twitter X. Okay. And if you're not on Twitter X, get your fanny back over there, because there's a lot of great information being spread over there, and it's driving left literally insane. Alex Jones is back up on there. Elon just put him back up. The vaccination information is all over there. If you want to hear what's going on, the conversations that are happening, get back on Twitter X. Make sure you obviously follow Grassroots Army over there. But let me share this screen with you real quick, because I want you guys to listen to this, because I'm sure this is going to get censored. Okay, so here we go.
Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera, aunque te resistas. Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología e Innovación, afuera. Ministerio de Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social, afuera. Ministerio de Educación, Adoctrinamiento, afuera. Ministerio de Transporte, afuera. Ministerio de Salud, afuera. Ministerio de Desarrollo Social, afuera. Se acabó el curro de la política. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
Oh man, I like that guy too. Holy cow. Just, he cut all those departments, which is just common sense. It's literally common sense. If you're in debt, guess what you have to do. Just like with us, if you're in credit card debt, what do you have to do? You have to cut spending. You have to quit wasting money. And that's exactly how you should run a government. If you are in debt, the trillions of dollars are in debt, it's time to cut the fat. It is common sense. And that's exactly what he has done. He literally, I think, cut 9 out of the 15 departments. And you saw the names of the departments. They're all made up to line the pocketbooks of all the corrupt politicians, right? That's exactly what he's doing. And so from 18 to 9, he cut it in half. He cut it in half, folks. That's leadership. That's taking a stand. Now, unfortunately, it took that country, Argentina, to go into what they had to experience over the past several decades. You know, bankruptcy and inflation and everything else. And it took breadlines to get that guy elected. All right. And that's what I don't want to have happen for us to have positive change in our country. But I strongly feel sometimes that People won't be willing to stand up and put themselves out there until there are breadlines, because people just would rather live their comfortable, complacent life, put their head in the sand and not risk it. But you have to, because if you don't start standing up now, we keep saying this, you're not going to have anything to stand up for here in the future. Look what's happened over the past just couple of years from folks just buying into a narrative and supporting a corrupt political narrative that they watch on CNN, and they're not able to get valuable information on social media because we were all censored, right? That's what happens. Elections have consequences. So you can't put your head in the sand. You have to vote for common sense. And that's what we need someone to get in there, cut the freaking spending, cut these unnecessary departments, just slash them. We don't need them, and start getting back to the basics. We have to trim the fat. We truly do. So I wanted to get on here today and show you those two videos, because I think it's very important to continue to educate folks on what's truly going on with the lobbying of big pharma and what they're doing with the corrupt politicians. And hey, you know what? I agree with Vivek Ramaswamy 100%. You know, if you are a politician, which is a public servant, and you're lobbying with these companies, then you have no right after you're done being a politician or a public servant to go sit on that board for at least 10 years. I agree with him 100%. And you could see the physiology. Go back and watch that video when he calls out Nikki Haley, because I know Nikki Haley's starting to rise in the polls. But again, do you want the same old, same old? Do you want the definition of insanity? Or do you want something fresh and new and exciting, right? And I'm like many of you are just done with the corruption of these politicians on both sides of the aisle. Hey, the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats, folks. That's not a news flash. That's just truth. Now, we want real now. We want real. Now, there's good. There is. But a lot of these folks are just as corrupt as one another, and they constantly point the finger. Y'all are corrupt, and y'all need to be replaced by good, God-fearing people that love this country and love this flag. That's who we should be voting for. So I am a fan of Argentina's president. That's for sure. And if you haven't watched that interview with Tucker Carlson on Twitter X, get over there and watch. It's over 500 million views, for goodness sakes. Oh my gosh. And so I will continue to give you the information. And this next month, the challenge, the Grassroots Army Strong Challenge, is coming into fruition. We have a lot of people that want to be involved in that. If you haven't, if this is the first time you listen to it, stay connected to the platforms, to the show, and I will be continually over the next couple of weeks getting you prepped for it. I'm going to make a video on Wednesday about some things that you can do right now throughout the holidays, because cold and flu season, it's a myth. Oh, he said that? Yes. And I'm going to go into detail on why that is. You know why there's a cold and flu season in the fall? Because you sugar up during Halloween, and then a month later, you're eating pies, you're eating all this garbage during Turkey Day. Then you go to Christmas, you're eating cookies and desserts, and you're drinking. And then they got New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, where what? Most people go out and rip it up. What does that tell you that people are doing to their bodies during this time? They are inflaming the ever-living hell out of it with all the sugar and the alcohol and the things. But there's a way you can do those things. There's an approach that you can do. You don't have to just inflame the hell out of your body, because when you do that, you cause free radicals, which leads to oxidative stress, which leads to inflammation. Your immune system gets tired. And guess what? You're more susceptible to your environment, which causes you to get sick. It's not rocket science, but it is science. And so those are the things that we're going to help you throughout the next couple of weeks to handle these holidays the right way, so you hit the ground running when we do the Grassroots Army Strong in January. And I really feel what I'm developing right now is really going to help a lot of folks. These 4 pillars of being what's called Grassroots Army Strong: physically strong, mentally strong, spiritually strong, and financially strong. 4 pillars to live a life that you are destined to live, a life full of abundance, passion, right? So that's what I'm going to build. And that's what we're going to take, is we're going to break down each pillar in the next 4 months, and we're going to go into it. And after that 4 months, you will have an opportunity to live a life that you never thought was possible. A life of abundance, a life of passion, and it's going to be an exciting time. Gosh, I love talking about this kind of stuff. All right. Have a great day. Share this video, please. I really feel that people need to see and hear what's truly going on with the vaccine issue. We'll see if it gets censored, even if this video gets taken down. However, it will be on my Rumble and everything else, because I think it's very important that we continue to educate folks on what's truly going on and give them other choices. So have a great day. God bless you. God bless the state of Michigan. Of course, and always, God bless these United States.